Hello and welcome to today's podcast episode, Child Protection Concerns Us All. Child protection is on everyone's lips. Hooray! But why now? Why not always? Unfortunately, because of the fact that more cases come to light where children have not been protected properly, where they have been exposed to violence or where their rights have simply not been respected, and this has also been made public in the media. That is why everyone is talking about institutions, organizations, associations, and everyone who works with children having a child protection concept. But what is it? What does it say? I would like to briefly explain and present this today. The basis is the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. In 54 articles, it is described what rights children have all over the world. Essentially, these conventions state that every child has a right to live regardless of gender, origin, skin color, ethnicity, denomination, physical limitations, etc. This is called equal treatment. Furthermore, every child has the right for food, clean water, medical care, security, support, and schooling. Therefore, the right for life and development. And in particular, a right to protection from violence and protection of the child's well-being, and also respect for the child's opinion. Child protection means that adults, together with children, ensure that these rights are exercised and that everything is done to ensure that children can grow up protected. What actually sounds quite simple is then very different in its implementation. Here is a small example. Consider the situation that you are sad for some reason, and then think about who is allowed to comfort you and how. Is your boss allowed to comfort you and give you a hug? Can your partner do this? Or your child, your colleague? And the same question, for example, who is allowed to give you something nice? You see, it is different in one and the same situation, who is allowed to do something and who is definitely not. And the same applies to child protection. Here it is also important to pay close attention to who does what, who is involved, who takes on which tasks. At home in the family environment, this is usually regulated without major agreements and arrangements. But in institutions and organizations that work with children, there must be agreements and rules in this regard. That is why there are child protection concepts. Child protection concepts generally regulate how adults deal with children, what the attitude towards children is, what rights children have in this environment in particular, also how children should meet and deal with each other. A child protection concept deals with how work is done in this organization, what tasks it has, how these have been implemented so far, and then when we start there and analyze what is very good and should remain so. And we look at what is perhaps not so good and what could be dangerous. This is called protection and risk analysis. This means that the whole process is closely examined and possible risks can be discovered. Among other things, it is established how staff members are selected, whether they are committed to children's rights and accept them, whether they take part in regular further training, or whether there is an exchange among the staff where possible problems can be discussed. It is also ascertained how the children are treated, whether there is preferential treatment or someone is excluded. Furthermore, the premises are closely examined to see if there are any sources of danger, whether there are dark corners, whether there are areas that might be unpleasant for children, and much more. The environment in which the institution or organization is located is also considered, as well as there are visitors or external staff, whether they are also aware of child protection and children's rights and act accordingly. All this can also be analyzed and explored together with the children. This makes particular sense because children perceive everything differently and notice possible sources of danger that adults don't see. This is called participation, also a part of children's rights. Once all this have been surveyed in detail and possible risks have been discovered, the organization should consider what steps are needed to avoid or mitigate these risks. Honestly, however, it must be said that one can never eradicate all risks and there can always be situations that cannot be prevented. So what to do when everything is raised? Part of a child protection concepts are action plans. These specify step by step what is to be done if danger is imminent or has occurred, who is to be involved, what supports is to be sought. Another part is the so-called complaint management. This means that there should be a way for everyone in the organization to report something that is not right, or where people would like to see change. This can be designed in many different ways, whether it is a letterbox or a consultation hour, a poster that is accessible for everyone, or any other ideas. And someone must be named who is responsible for all this. Someone who is responsible for child protection, a child protection officer. In the best case, this person is known and also the contact details of how he or she can be reached. A child protection concept includes all this and much more. But what for? It gives security. It gives security for the children who are cared for and in this organization or institution. Security that children's rights are in the foreground, that they are respected and adhered to. There is security for all employees, with a so-called self-commitment declaration that everyone signs, where they commit that all the attitudes and values you can be sure that everyone is pulling in the same direction. And the security that if something should happen, there is a guideline and a contact person who supports me to manage the situation in the best possible way. There is security for parents and all those entrusted with the children. If I know that an institution has a child protection concept, I know that these people have actively dealt with children's rights and child protection, that they are respected, and above all, that if I have a complaint or suggestion, that there is someone, a child protection officer, to whom I can specifically turn. And of course, the security for the organization, that because of the concept, so many things are scrutinized that it is hard not to pay attention to child protection. Child protection concerns all of us, best supported with a child protection concept. Whether I work with children in an institution or organization and thus actively live child protection and children's rights, whether I, as a parent, choose this institution and also actively participate in it by contributing suggestions and perhaps also praise, or whether I, as a so-called outsider, simply support and applaud this attitude. In this sense, thank you for listening and all the best. Goodbye.